button? It went away. Okay. There's no process with her where I can go, okay, this is the day we studied this. But she talked about it. It's almost like Indigo Child, but it's not Indigo Child. Does that ring a bell to you?
I think I know what you're talking about, because usually
it's a guy that studied the fourth, the children.
I think that there are more and more people coming in now and raising their hand to be generational pattern shifters. I think that there are, I think that they're asking us to reconnect, because when we reconnect with our ancestors, we're reconnecting to a time when there was ritual, tradition, and meaning. Mm-hmm. And we don't have a lot of ritual, tradition, and meaning anymore. We used to be reverent, and now we're irreverent. And I think that sometimes we need something to hold us down and anchor us. And those rituals and traditions were touchstones for us to come and anchor into some kind of grounding of who we are as people, and who our families are, and what the things are that are meaningful in our cultures. And we just don't have that anymore. And we're all on phones and Facebook, and none of us our feet are not often touching the ground.
Yeah.
And we are not we don't know our neighbors anymore. We've disconnected in so many ways in this modern life, that when we reconnect, even just to an ancestor, but when we reconnect to our culture and our community, it's like we're reconnecting to something meaningful. And that is very healing. It's very hard to feel separate. A lot of depression and alcoholism and addiction is from feeling separate and feeling alone. And you already feel alone when you're a generational pattern shifter, until you start finding your tribe and your wolf pack. And
that's the name of what you call it. It's a generational pattern shifter is the actual name. I can't find it. I'm going to read this. I would have to read this whole thing.
Yeah, that's based off of my work, because what I found was that the generational pattern shifter is actually breaking patterns from the past so that they don't pass them down into the future. When they break those patterns and they heal, they actually heal the DNA going backwards, and they heal the DNA going forward.
Oh my gosh.
Like me, and you don't have children, many generational pattern shifters think about, as they heal themselves naturally, they think about what I call the sacred family. And it's just a terminology in Native American medicine where we're talking about your own family. So most people, when they heal, they begin to heal their families. And then they begin to heal the sacred family, which is out there in the world. They begin to heal other people in the world. They either go into a healing profession, or they just help everybody wherever they're walking around. Okay. They share a tip, like your radio show. Pattern shifters usually have a major goal as they experience this shift of healing in their body, that they're passionate to share that with other people, because they to heal the sacred family.
Love it.
That is why when I say generational pattern shifter, we're talking about a ripple effect, backwards, forwards, and all the way around.
Okay. So now we're going to go back on the air, and we're going to talk about the process of healing and the tips. Okay.
Yes.
And get ready to dance, because we're about to listen to the theme song. And he's right on cue. Did you hear that?
Count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you. You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
And once again, we are having an incredible conversation with Heather Dane. For those of you who are falling in love with Heather Dane, like I did 2 years ago, has it been 2 or 3 years? I think it's been 2 years, right, Heather?
Yeah.
And we've gone on little adventures together. She had me at hello. That's all I can say. And all the time, every time I am in her presence, I learn something new. I want to encourage you to go to heatherdane.com if you want to learn more. If you have any questions for her, you can also text me at 407-373-5959. But today we're talking about healing through your ancestry. Oh my gosh, I've got so many questions for you. But right now, I want to encourage you, my listening friend, that you're driving around going, I want to learn more about this. Well, Heather has been giving us lots of information on the recording. So we're recording live, and you will get this recording after the show, and you can watch it some more. So let's talk about the process. How do we connect to our ancestors? How do we heal that DNA, Heather, that you were talking about during the break?
One of the easiest things to do is really just learn about your background. So you may know I'm Spanish, I'm Italian, I'm, whatever it is you are, French, whatever you are, Native American, some Aboriginal background, whatever it is, go online. I mean, we've got so many resources where you can go online and learn about it. I had a client recently who, what I'll ask people to do in meditation is see which ancestor is coming to them in a meditation. So I take people through a journey where they connect to an ancestor. If you don't even know who it is, it doesn't matter. It may be a guide. Our intuition will take us to the right person and the right feeling. And my client connected to her Italian grandfather. And she appeared to have some medicine lineage. And I think a lot of people who are generational pattern shifters have some medicine lineage. Those of you who've had parents with alcoholism, drug addiction, things like that are very likely people who've had psychic medium sort of lineages in your background. And maybe oftentimes these substances are used to self-medicate so that you don't feel those things because it's uncomfortable. Nobody teaches us how to deal with it. So we go back and I could see threads of sort of medicine people in her lineage. And so I asked her to study Italian medicine. And of course I had to go and look because I was curious. And I found out that some of the ancient Italian medicine came from Albania. And I had already been looking at Albanian medicine because of another client who was a generational pattern shifter. So I began to really look at that. And so you follow those threads, and you even just having that connection mentally is great. I give people exercises, and this is just easy enough. Think about the unseen. We in Native American cultures, we believe that the unseen is just as important as the seen, and that oftentimes things happen in the unseen first. So those of you who believe when you set your intentions, when you meditate, you set your day up for a better day, and you set the stage for things to sort of move in the direction you want to move them in.
Sure.
That's working in the unseen. And so imagine yourself going into the unseen. And in Native American medicine, it looks like a web, which I like to think of connective tissue.
Yes.
Connective tissue connects us together and holds us together. Communities are the connective tissue of our neighborhoods, and your culture is the connective tissue of your ancestry. So if you think about connection, you can imagine yourself going into this unseen web, taking the ancestor with you, who you feel comfortable with, whatever you feel drawn to, whether you see them or whether you just feel them, and go into that unseen and feel what you feel. Notice what you feel drawn to. And if you don't feel anything right away, that's okay. The more you go into the unseen and you feel yourself supported in that community of connective tissue, the more you start saying, I like to say, take my great grandmother in with me and say, help me heal this, whatever it is. Help me work through this situation. Can you help me in the unseen to get everything in the direction that I need it to be in? And I go in and do my meditation in that way. And that alone says I have help from my ancestors. And also that I believe that I can affect, starting from the unseen, I can have some effect on being drawn to or attracted to the solution that will help me work through this.
I love it.
That's helped a lot of people. Eating the food of your ancestors. And people say, like I had a friend who said, well, I'm Irish. I'm not going to heal with whiskey and potatoes. And
Who knows?
I know. And I went back and I said, well, the Irish didn't eat, whiskey and potatoes is not their real diet. They ate a lot of fermented foods. They ate kale, and kale was one of her favorites. They did a lot of slow cooking of things. Potatoes came in later. But it's sort of like, find out what the real diet was and some of the real key foods that they were eating. Why? Because your DNA was organized around those foods. What we can digest and what nutrients we need were organized around those foods. And they knew what they were because they lived off the land. So they had a knowledge that we've lost today that was just second nature to them. To us, it seems, we go on a shelf and pull something off that has nothing to do with our DNA. And often, if it's processed, has no value to our DNA. Mm-hmm. So we go back to those foods that our ancestors so wisely knew were nourishing and supportive to them, and we eat those foods. And I found many clients start to heal simply from doing that, because all of a sudden they have nutrients that they were missing before that are switching off those DNA switches. So these are wonderful things.
Yeah, it's amazing to me, you know, and as you're talking, I'm having like all these thoughts about my background. There is one person in particular in my life. He's my uncle, my father's brother, Uncle Oscar. He is the keeper of the stories. He knows the stories. Like I said at the beginning of the program, I can go back my DNA to my grandfather. That's how far I can go back. But my uncle says all these stories. And sometimes I wonder, are they real? Are they not real? And he said that there's because the story of our last name, and he told us all these stories about, but he said one time that there is Middle Eastern in our genes, in our DNA. And as you're talking about that, I'm thinking, is that why I love chickpeas?
Maybe. Yeah.
And I love falafel and, you know, those things that just like get me, like if I were a dog and I had a tail, whenever I go to a Mediterranean place, my tail just wags. I mean, if you could have that visual. And so it's worth it to go to that uncle, that aunt, that special person in our life that is the storyteller, the keeper of the stories that you talked about earlier.
Yeah, I have an immunologist friend, and we talk a lot. We collaborate on cases a lot, especially if I have a client with cancer or something like that. And she works on bringing natural protocols to the table when it comes to healing. And we were talking about this, and she said, because I'm always going back to science. I love science, but I also firmly believe in the unseen and in the intuitive aspects of healing. And she said that we're not meant to be running around eating turmeric all the time if we don't have an Indian background or a background that was using turmeric in their native diets. It's not that turmeric isn't a great spice. It's just that for certain people, turmeric isn't good. And for other people, turmeric is good. So if you think, oh, gee, I've read that turmeric is this amazing spice, but it's actually not amazing for you, and you start downing it, you know, in all your food, and you don't feel any better, and it's not anti-inflammatory for you, it's actually the opposite. So here it is, we think that somebody else tells us that there's this miracle food or miracle spice or miracle herb, and it's not a miracle for everybody. So this is honoring who you are and what your unique makeup is when you think about how you're going to choose your healing journey and what foods are going to help you on it.
Great advice, Heather Dane. There's always never enough time when we're together. There's always, we need another excuse to come. Not that we need an excuse, but we do need to continue this conversation. And we'll talk. Go ahead.
I do want to say, Lily, that people have been asking me have I written about this? I have part of it in Loving Yourself to Great Health that I wrote with Louise Hay and Alia Cadro. I have another part of it in The Bone Broth Secret. But people have been asking recently, you know, have you written about generational pattern shifters? I haven't yet, because it's based on the last 5 years of work I've done with my clients with epigenetics. But I am teaching a class with Amy Scher, who is an energy therapist. And we're teaching it on October 28th at the Open Center in New York City. So if you believe you're a generational pattern shifter and you want to have a real healing experience, you can go to opencenter.org or heatherdane.com to learn more about that class, October 28th in New York City.
Sounds like I need to go visit.
Yes!
Okay, we're going to, thank you, Heather, for coming on the show today. And I look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you, Lily.
And to you, my listening friend, you can take a pill, you can take a responsibility, or you can look into your ancestry. You choose. Choose from love. This is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job, Heather. Oh, boy. This is a lot. You're just going to have to consider this as a new truth. The missing link. This is great, Heather. I'm so glad did you stumble upon this, or did you consciously look for this?
I stumbled upon it.
Isn't that the best gifts?
When I started working with my clients in this way, it was mind-blowing because it was less effort for healing. You know, before I was like, oh, this food, this supplement, and we were getting there and we were fixing things and things were happening. But when the connection was brought in, you know, when this reconnection was brought in, it changed everything and it accelerated. I find people acceleratingly healing without needing so many props to do it.
Wow.
And without needing as much time to do it, because now it becomes a full body experience. It's a reconnection. And I think we all want to feel like we have people in our lives to support us.
Absolutely.
And, you know, it makes a huge difference.
I want you to say again, I want you to say again when with your next, the class, the phone is ringing. My phone is ringing. And that's why I'm looking at that and I'm trying to say, I can't answer that phone because I'm being recorded here. But
it's at the Open Center in New York City, which is a really fun place to go take classes. And I'm teaching with energy therapist Amy Scher, who wrote the book How to Heal Yourself When No One Else Can.
I'd like to get her on the show too, Heather. Maybe you can talk to her.
I'll connect you too. She's incredible. People are madly in love with her. She's been on my show several times, and she's been working with her clients on inherited trauma. And I brought this up on a show that she was on with me, and we began working with people on the air. And it was really great. And people liked it so much that we decided to teach this class. So it's going to be on Saturday, October 28th in New York City. And we are going to be talking about how to decode your body's messages and tap into that DNA healing nutrition. You don't have to have your genetic report to be able to do any of the work that we're doing. We're going to be doing some Native American medicine. We're going to be doing energy medicine. And we're going to be giving people a journey and a pathway so that they can walk away with this experience of healing. It's going to be a day-long, full immersion.
Just one day? What's the cost, Heather?
It's I think it's like $150. There's a
really
because there's member prices for people who are members of the Open Center. But yeah, so it's actually inexpensive. That's one of the things that I like about the Open Center is that they deliver really good programming at an affordable price. And I've had a goal for a long time of bringing more affordable solutions to people. And I'm working on that right now. I have some online classes I'm working on to help people heal that will be really affordable. And it's just a goal that I have because so many people have been reaching out, and I have a 3-year waiting list right now. So I just
Heather.
I know. So I feel bad because people keep emailing me, but I've wanted to find a way to just reach the masses, and I'm bringing some of the top doctors, medical doctors who practice natural healing and nutrition, and we're going to teach a number of things, including how to cook healing foods, so that people can be their own, health detectives. But we're going to give people like step-by-step protocols in their healing. So that's coming later on. I'm doing a partnership with the Price Pottinger Nutrition Foundation, and that's going to come later. Some of the people you've had on the show will probably be with me, like Dr. Judy Mikovits and some others. So
yeah, she was great. She was really good on the show. Thank you for that. And just send Ashley a list of people that you can suggest to be on the show, because it's so important that we like that web that you talk about. But you know what? You talked about the turmeric, and I wanted to address this. I didn't get to address it on the show because there's certain things we just can't do while we're on the air. But this is what I love about this program, that we can record the conversations that happen off the air. You had said something about turmeric and how certain foods and certain things, but aren't we all connected, Heather? Aren't we all one? At what point do we separate ourselves and say, well, this food works for you, it doesn't work for me? What makes that happen?
Because food is medicine in reality, and our ancestors never took that lightly. And they listened to their bodies and would follow what their bodies were telling them to do. And also they were local a lot of times, so they would eat what they could hunt and what they could gather. Mm-hmm. And those things were not placed in the location they were in by accident. We know from science that for every plant there's for every poisonous plant there's an antidote within 3 feet of that plant. Now I don't know if that's being eroded today, but that's how our ancestors experienced things. So they tended to treat, in the Native American tradition, we believed that everything had a renda, which is a soul or spirit, including all the plants, all the animals, all the rocks. Everything had something to say, a voice, a meaning, and a power. Mm-hmm. And we didn't take that lightly. And so with something like turmeric, it is what's called a methylator. It can switch on methylation, which is a process that, just to keep it simple, it's a process that helps our DNA do its job. And if we have too many methyl donors, it can over-methylate, and the body can be in overdrive. If we have too few, the body is in underdrive, essentially. So if you take someone with cancer and they say, oh, gee, turmeric, it works, and they take it, some of those people are actually going to be made worse with turmeric because it is a methyl donor. And if you live in India or you have a cultural background in India or wherever turmeric is sort of a naturally growing, prolific spice, it was placed there probably because your ancestors could have it and it was good for them. But if it's not your background, it might be that you look to something like ginger. Ginger is just as wonderful and anti-inflammatory, and it might actually be better for you based on your background than turmeric would be, simply because your DNA is built around those foods that were in your area. Your microbiome, the bacteria that helps digest everything in your body, is based off of your ancestors' microbiome. So we know that I could go to your DNA and tell you what to eat. I could do that. I could read your DNA and I could say, okay, all of the symptoms that you have, you're missing magnesium, you're missing B6, you're missing B12. I could tell you all these things and show you the foods and the supplements that would help to turn that switch off. And it works.
Amazing. Amazing.
But you could also, if you're just watching or listening and you don't have your DNA and maybe you don't even care to get it, you go back and look at what your ancestors were eating and think about using those as medicinal foods.
Very good. So I'm going to have some rice and beans later on.
And well, Heather, one thing I want to say, Lily, is that the rice that you're eating is very different than the rice that your ancestors ate. If you can ever have an opportunity to go somewhere where they're still doing rice the way it's always been done, like I'm going to go to Thailand in November and I want to taste the rice that's real.
So you are going to Thailand. Good for you.
November, yeah.
In November.
So I'm going for an authentic on the ground food experience. I'm going to taste their ancestral foods, and even though they're not mine, I have a theory that they're eating for connective tissue health. And I'm going to test my theory with my own digestive system.
Well, hey, I sense another show coming on.
I know.
Anyway, Heather, I need to go, and I am so grateful to you for all your information, and I want to thank all our viewers and followers, and I hope that this was something that made a difference in your life. And again, Heather Dane at heatherdane.com, and as always, follow me at whenyouneedafriend.com. Okay, so this is bye for now.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lily.
Well done. Go ahead, Heather. Go ahead, do the song.
I only know the part that says, I'll be right here waiting for you.
Love it. Encore presentation with Heather Dane. This time we go for real.